Good evening. I'm Mayor Joe Craig. I'd like to welcome you to the Village of Los Ranchos trustee meeting. We're going to have a time. It is 7 o'clock. This meeting is streamed on the village website. The public can participate via Zoom. Instructions and overall public participation guidance for commenting is listed on the website and on page 5 of the meeting. The Village of Los Ranchos is providing the ability for the public to participate in hybrid meetings. As is with any application, digital service, or software, the opportunity for failure can occur. Therefore, the Village is not responsible for the inability to connect to the meeting, either by the Zoom meeting link or viewing via live stream. The meeting video and audio is recorded and will be available online after the meeting on the Village website. We need to do our Boy Scouts here, sorry.
If you want to go ahead with roll call prior.
Okay. Roll call, Trustee Benavides.
Here.
Trustee Kiefer.
Present.
Trustee Radnovich.
Here.
Trustee Renault.
Here.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance, please stand and join me.
Post the colors. Just ask them to post the colors.
Post the colors, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve or amend the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second? Trustee Benavides, seconds.
Oh, Frank did. Frank beat me.
Thank you. We'd like to call for the question. Call for the roll call vote. Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich?
Yes.
Trustee Renault?
Yes.
The motion carries 4-0. Thank you. We'll have item 5, organizational meeting of the governing body, discussion and approval of resolution 2024-01-01, establishing the governing body meetings and public notice requirements as required by the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, New Mexico NMSA 1978, Chapter 10, Article 5. Danielle?
Thank you. Mayor and trustees, as you know, at the beginning of every year, we establish our open meetings resolution. What you have in front of you is resolution number 2024-01-01. This is required by Section 10-15-1 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. So each public body should adopt an annual resolution at a meeting stating its procedure for giving notices. The resolution in front of you outlines all of that. However, I do want to point out that we've had some discussion under item 1, which is changing the meeting time. Currently, our meetings for regularly scheduled meetings are at 7. It's been mentioned and recommended to move that to 6 p.m. Secondly, under item number 2 is changing the meetings from the second Wednesday of each month to the third Wednesday. And this has been based on some comments that have come through regarding when the packet is received and the amount of days that allows the trustees to prepare for the meetings. So currently it's 6 business days under the second Wednesday. If we move it to the third Wednesday, it will be 10, I'm sorry, not 10 business days. I mean, not 6 business days, 6 calendar days. If we change it to the third Wednesday, it'll be 10 calendar days prior. So those are things that we need to adjust. Everything else is standard, how we announce special meetings, emergency meetings, the minutes, et cetera. So with that, I'll stand for questions once we get into we motion and discuss to see how we want to move forward with this resolution.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 2024-01-01?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2021-10-01.
I'm sorry, 2024.
Thank you, sorry.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion from the governing body.
Do you want to start with anyone particular?
Go ahead.
Okay. The one thing that I would say that we should watch out for is the Albuquerque-Bernalillo County Water Authority meetings are typically on the second and third Wednesday. They're not very consistent. It seems like half the time it's on the second Wednesday, half the time it's on the third Wednesday. Every now and then it's on a first Wednesday. But the important point is it's at 5 p.m. Now, they're pretty quick with their meetings. It's amazing. Think of how long it takes our meetings, but their meetings, they're typically done in an hour and no more than an hour and a half. However, to get from downtown, and we do have, let me add, we do have 1 seat on that board, but to get from downtown to our village hall would be pretty tight. I don't know if we would make it. So that should be considered in regards to the 6 p.m. time. But aside from that, I'm pretty flexible. I don't really care if it's a second Wednesday or third Wednesday.
Are you still our representative on the water board?
I am.
And is that a mayoral
Appointment? Probably.
Mr. Chapman? I'm sorry, Mr. Campbell. Sorry.
Trustee Radnovich, I can't answer that question for certain, but I believe that it is a nomination by the mayor and approved by the Board of Trustees.
Sorry, I mangled your name. I give you permission to mangle mine.
I can understand the conundrum here. And again, when we had discussed this, there were a couple of issues that were brought up about individuals who are working, who need to be able to, to get some kind of food before coming to a meeting. I can raise my hand on that. So 7 o'clock would certainly work. I'm also concerned about staff coming in again in the morning at 8 after being here so late for a meeting. But certainly I'd be able to operate either at 6 or 7, but certainly respect what you're talking about in terms of 7 o'clock.
Yeah, and I think we do need representation at the water board. We really have to. So that's an issue I hadn't thought of until Trustee Benavides brought it up tonight.
6:30 would probably be fine if that's a compromise that appeals to anybody. I don't know.
Half an hour would help staff, wouldn't it?
I'm open to 6 or 7. Again, I think I echo Frank's sentiments on staff. I mean, that's a long day from 8 a.m. to, sometimes 11 p.m. But then I do recognize the importance of what Trustee Benavides reminded us of, because I wasn't aware of that appointment. So I'm open.
Another option is to pick a different day than Wednesday.
Do we have any other boards that we are associated with that perhaps we ought to have a matrix that shows conflicts?
Mayor and trustees, not in the evening that I am aware of. There are appointments to other boards and committees, but those are typically during the business day.
So, I'm sorry.
Mayor, I'm open to another day.
Okay.
As long as we have it planned ahead,
Right.
I don't see a problem. And maybe that's the best approach, I don't know.
Okay.
How does I'm just curious, how does staff feel about another day? Are there commitments on your side?
Mayor and trustees, the only date that might be in conflict would be our Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, which are typically the second Tuesday. So that would be something that we wish to avoid a conflict with.
And Mayor and trustees, currently our workshops, our evening workshops at the Agri-Nature Center have been on Thursdays, but that's just because of Wednesdays and Tuesdays having other things. So, but all of that can be adjusted. We do have our schedule laid out for the rest of this semester, but we can tweak it as needed.
Danielle, I have another question, Mayor, if I can. If we changed it to, say, a Thursday, the third Thursday of the month, just as an example, and we decided this just isn't working for whatever reason 6 months from now, is that do we need to keep it for the year, don't we?
Mayor and trustees, what we need to do is if we go through this and decide that that's going to work right now for us, the third Thursday, we can definitely work through it. And if 6 months down the road that we decide that this isn't going to work, we just need to make sure that we notice it with proper time. We'll reevaluate this resolution and then we will amend it accordingly, as long as the public is aware of what changes we've made.
And I'd like to say one other thing, Mayor, trustees. I'm more than, I'm the one who brought up, 7 o'clock is better because I personally can have a little bite before long meetings. But I'm more than willing to change it to 6 to help staff with their, long days at the office or in the fields.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion then to change to 6 on Wednesday? Is that what I'm
Yeah,
hearing?
can we, I'd like to make a motion to, let me get the number right. I'd like to make a motion for resolution number 2024-01-01 to modify the timing on our meetings to 6 o'clock, not 7 o'clock. And then to change the date, or excuse me, the day to the third Thursday of each month.
So, Mayor and Trustee Radnovich, just to make it clear, you're amending your original motion to amend that and signify that we're going to go ahead with changing our meetings to 6 p.m. and the third Thursday of each month. Is that correct?
I'm going to throw a little wrench in it, if you don't mind. Instead of Thursdays, because of what Josh said with ag things, what if we did third Tuesday, because it's the second Tuesday is planning and zoning, correct? So then we could do third Tuesday.
And I would accept that amendment.
It's fine too.
Mayor and Trustee Kiefer, I just want to repeat what was stated. We're going to go ahead and amend the resolution to make it at 6 PM on the third Tuesday of each month. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we will do a roll call vote. Oh, sorry. We have a motion, I'm sorry. We need from Trustee Radnovich, we need a second.
I'll second.
Trustee, let's do a roll call vote then. We have a motion and a second. Trustee Benavides,
Yes?
Trustee Kiefer,
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich,
Yes.
Trustee Rennell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. We will move to the 6 PM on the third Tuesday of the month for our trustees meetings. All right, we'll move on to 5B, pursuant to Section 3-12-3, Section 1, NMSA 1978, the governing body of a municipality shall elect one of its members to act as mayor pro tem in the absence of the mayor. Nomination and approval. Is there a motion to open nominations from the governing body for a mayor pro tem?
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
The last mayor pro tem under Mayor Lopez's administration was the mayor pro tem the entire time I was a trustee. True for Trustee Benavides too. I never got to vote on that because she was a mayor pro tem prior, I don't know how long before. This is a question for you, Danielle. I think it's a good experience for us to be mayor pro tem. And I would like to make a nomination if someone else doesn't. But is it possible to modify that, to change mayor pro tems yearly so that others can have whatever that experience is as well?
Mayor and Trustee Radnovich, I'm not certain if that's a good idea to do it on an annual basis. However, I would recommend at the organizational meeting after an election, which we would do every 2 years. So that would give the person who you nominate and is selected tonight to at least serve in that role for at least 2 years to kind of get that under their belt. And then at the next organizational meeting after an election, then you can put that up for nomination again, which would be part of the organizational meeting.
And why would you recommend not every year? Just curious.
Mayor and Trustee, I just think that it doesn't allow enough time for that individual to kind of get up to par and understand in the absence of the mayor, they may never have that opportunity to serve in that role if the mayor is never absent.
That makes sense.
Okay. So
Mayor Craig, I'll make a motion.
yes.
I'll
Okay.
make a motion to nominate Frank Raynell as mayor pro tem in the absence of the mayor.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a nomination for Mayor Pro Tem. We have Trustee Renaud as the, will be our nominee for the vote. Can we call for the question? Or is there any discussion, or would you like us to call for the question?
Call for the question.
Okay. Call for roll call vote then. Trustee Benavides,
Yes.
Trustee Kiefer,
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich,
Yes.
Trustee Renaud?
Yes.
Thank goodness. Congratulations. The motion carries 4-0. Thank you. We'll go to 5C. Pursuant to 3-11-5A NMSA 1978, the mayor shall submit for confirmation by the governing body the names of persons who will fill the appointed offices of the municipality. We have Village Treasurer Will Fisher, Village Clerk Danielle Cedillo Molina, Village Planning and Zoning Director Maida Rubin, and Village Administrator is currently vacant. Is there a motion to approve the appointed officers?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve 5C.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to discuss something. I'd heard through the proverbial grapevine that we were going to put out a RFP for a village administrator. And I have concerns about that I wanted to just bring up.
Okay.
RFPs are going to bring people from all over this country to come and be village administrator, or at least apply for the job. It may also bring someone from New Mexico as well, but it's going to be expensive and you know, we may only get people from out of state who don't really know Los Ranchos and everything, especially that we've been through over the last 2 years. So I would like to suggest that we use a headhunter to do that instead of an RFP, or at least that we consider it, because I think it would be less expensive and we probably would get a better candidate that's local, or at least within the state, perhaps. So just a suggestion.
Thank you. I've heard that suggestion as well. So.
Mayor and Trustee Radovich, there will be no RFP for this. This is not a request for proposals. This will be an actual announcement for a vacant position for the administrator.
So it's just posted.
Correct. So this position will be advertised through the New Mexico Municipal League and through various other formats of advertising this position, but it is not a request for proposals.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
You know, I think the RFP certainly is an opportunity for us. My concern, though, is that it could take some time in terms of getting it started. As in, when you go out for someone to do the search for you, then you're going to have to go through a process of developing an RFP in order to find the firm that you're going to select. Then you go through the process of, again, selecting that firm and getting them rooted in the village, and then you go about doing the actual selection, okay, recruitment and selection. So that again can be time consuming, and I'd rather try and expedite the process if we possibly could.
Mayor Craig, Trustee right now, I agree, but I respectfully disagree, because I think it can be done through a sole source purchasing of less than $60,000 to a headhunter. So we don't have to do a complete RFP process because it's a professional service. So it should save time. Not saying that's the way to go, but I think there's a way that it can be done without the time-consuming RFP process.
Danielle, is there a requirement to put a posting out?
So, Mayor and Trustee Benavides, typically this is a position that the village has an opening for. It's a vacant position currently. Had Mayor Craig chosen to appoint someone this evening, we could do so without going through any of that process. However, Mayor Craig has chosen to open it up, so that way we can look at the possibility of opening it up to numerous candidates that might have the experience and ability to fit the needs of the village and what the job description entails.
Okay. So basically, it's the mayor's call as to how he wants to proceed, right?
Correct.
It's a good question. Do you want to modify, Trustee Radnovich?
I wasn't making a motion. I was just making a suggestion
Okay,
to try to save the village money.
right.
So currently, Mayor, we have a motion by Trustee Benavides to approve and a second by Trustee Rhino to approve. This was all just under general discussion.
Right. Okay. So then, should we go ahead and call for the roll call vote? Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich?
Yes.
Trustee Renaud?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0. We'll go on to section 5D pursuant to 3-11-5A NMSA 1978. The mayor shall submit for confirmation by the governing body the names of the persons who shall be employed by the municipality. Would you like, as an aside, would you like me to read these names or?
Oh, okay.
Okay. This is our staff. I think we have an outstanding staff. And I would like to ask for a second to approve our municipal employees.
So we'll need, Mayor, a motion first before we get a second.
I'll make a motion to approve pursuant to 3-11-5A NMSA 1978, a motion to approve our staff.
Thank you, Trustee Radnovich. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Okay.
Thank you, Trustee Benavides. Any discussion further?
I just have a question, Mayor. Did any of these positions change?
No. These are all of our existing employees. I think they have done a great job.
They have.
And I ask all to stay to continue the work that they've been doing. And I just, perhaps I should add, I've been on board here for a little less than 3 weeks. They are working and working and working. It's a great staff, so we have a motion, sorry. Is there a second?
Yes.
Do I have a second? Okay, discussion, I'm sorry, I got on the wrong call. Call for the question, which we have. Call for the roll call vote. Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich?
Yes?
Trustee Renaud?
Yes.
The motion carries 4-0. Thank you. 5E, discussion and approval in accordance with the Village of Los Ranchos 2013 Codified Ordinances, Chapter 9, 9.2.2 Planning and Zoning Commission, membership. A membership, the commission shall consist of 7 members who shall be appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of the members of the governing body. Planning and zoning commissioners for calendar year 2024, that is January through December, Gwen Baldwin, Connie Barrow, John Edward, Mary Holman, and Drew Tagliapietra. Is there a motion to approve the planning and zoning commissioners for the 2024 calendar year?
I would like to make a motion to approve 5E with the following amendment. To add Shailene Smith and Bob Martinez, who were previously planning and zoning commissioners.
Thank you. We do, is there a second to this motion?
I'll second it.
Discussion from the governing body?
No, I just wanted to,
Go on.
just to thank Drew for stepping up. And this is a, this is a very much volunteer position. It's time consuming. The work that's being done by the P and Z is extremely important. So again, thank you very much for your willingness to serve.
I guess I'd like to say, I agree with Trustee Benavidez on Bob and Shailene, which is why I seconded it. Bob, I think, is a clear-headed commissioner. We only have 5 nominated. He has been in the business that uses planning and zoning commissions in the past, and I didn't expect him to be missing. So I just wanted to say that about him, and I think he'd still be a good commissioner. Shailene is also, she's very new to the village, I realize that, but she also, I think, is a clear-headed individual, and that's why I seconded the motion as well.
Okay.
Mayor, point of order. I think the ordinance says that the commissioners are appointed by the mayor, subject to approval of the Board of Trustees. I don't think the ordinance is broad enough for the Board of Trustees to nominate their own people, so it's either an approval or disapproval of the list and not adding to the list under the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
May I ask Attorney Chappell a question? Do we need to have 7 commissioners? Because that's what it states in our code.
I think the code, and I think it anticipates there will be vacancies from time to time and how they are appointed. And I think the mayor is required to, as best he can, appoint replacements, talk to people, whomever, how that occurs, and bring it back to the Board of Trustees for approval to fill those vacancies. So what this appears to be is just to approval of those that are there, and there will be 2 vacancies that have to be filled, however that's done. But I don't think that's for the trustees to provide those names and then vote on it.
Can the mayor appoint the 2 individuals right here and now?
The mayor is in control of who is appointed to that commission and who stays on the commission, if that's what you're asking.
Can he appoint the 2 individuals that I mentioned right now?
It hasn't been published, and so I would expect that it needs to be published so that the input could be obtained just as it would for any other action. My motion is a moot point then, right? There's no motion then, is what you're telling me. I just think as a point of order, it's not the way to do it. I think when it comes back, this has been part of the Board of Trustees package, so everybody can see what's there in an open meeting, and to point somebody that's not been designated is not appropriate under the open meetings.
And then I'd like to withdraw my motion, my moot motion then. And there.
Your moot motion.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So then we have a call for the question. We have Gwen Baldwin, Connie Barrow, John Edward, Mary Holman, and Drew Tagliapietra as Planning and Zoning Commissioners for calendar year 2024, January through December. I'd like to call for a roll call vote.
Mayor Craig will need to go back to a motion since
sorry.
Trustee Benavidez withdrew his.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance, chapter 9, 9.2.2, Planning and Zoning Commission membership of the mayor's appointments.
I'll second.
Call for the roll call vote. Trustee Benavides?
No.
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Mayor, don't we have discussion?
Oh, discussion?
Oh, it's good.
Are we?
Because I
Back to
wanted to
discussion.
say
Okay.
something. I lean towards saying, voting yes on your appointments. However, and I have nothing against Ms. Tagliapietra, but this is a technical position. We've had architects, obviously landscape architects, planners, engineers in the position, and I say yes with trepidation because I don't see a lot of experience in technical fields like that from your nominee, for your nominee. So I just wanted to state that.
Thank you.
Let me follow on with a comment, if I may. So I do get it, being a former planning and zoning commissioner, it does take time to come up to speed. And I'm not as concerned if we had the other two commissioners to help the inexperienced person come along. But with 5, I am concerned about that, yes.
I think I would agree with Commissioner Benavides. It's going to take some time, but I think that we need to have some clear representation from the community. And so I believe it's important that we have a mix of people on the P&Z.
So, any more discussion?
No.
All right, we have Planning and Zoning Commissioners then for the calendar year 2024. This is a question. If it passes, they are appointed. If it does not pass, then our Planning and Zoning will be on hold. Is that correct?
Mayor and trustees, you will need to have a quorum right now with 5 commissioners. That is a quorum to conduct business.
Right.
However, if you choose to appoint other individuals in the subsequent meetings as we move forward, then that can fill those empty
Right.
vacancies. So for right now, for purposes of conducting business, should Planning and Zoning have a meeting in February, they will be able to conduct business.
Correct, with the 5. But if we deny these 5, then Planning and Zoning is
That is correct.
shut down. Okay.
So they cannot have a meeting if we don't approve these tonight.
Right.
This is sounding a little like the last administration. No, just kidding.
Unless
I'm just kidding.
Unless we have a special meeting or planning and zoning has a meeting other than the second Tuesday or something.
Mayor Craig, do you plan to nominate 2 others in the near future?
Yes, in February.
In February?
Yes, yeah, we were unable to, in the short time that we've had in the transition, lack of transition actually, from the previous administration to carry forward and get 2 additional people.
Excellent.
Qualified people. I believe these are very qualified commissioners and takes us forward into the future. Obviously, we have a question right now with the 5, and there will be 2 more coming in February. But we pass these or we shut down the commission for a while. So,
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Call for the question then?
Vote?
Call for the vote. Trustee Benavides?
No.
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich?
Yes.
Trustee Renaud?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-1. Thank you. We'll go on to general comment. Number 6, participants, wishing to speak on topics that do not appear on the agenda will be given 3 minutes. No action can occur on these items. If you have questions, please feel free to contact staff during business hours. Danielle, please proceed by calling up individuals that signed up for general public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and trustees, our first individual who signed up is Ms. Camille Vados. Camille, if you would, please approach the podium. I do not see her present. The next individual is Mr. Robert Chavez. If you would, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Danelle. Robert Chavez, 324 Enchanted Valley Place, Los Ranchos. This evening, I come before you as a representative of 625 residents that signed a petition in June of 2022, at which time I was representing them before the Board of Trustee meeting. That petition was executed by 20 resident volunteers walking their neighborhoods, getting signatures. It was presented to the Board of Trustees, as I said, in the July BOT meeting. It asked for a moratorium for any development that was 3 stories high or high density. And as a result of that, the prior administration set up a committee, the CAC committee, Citizens Advisory Committee, and were charged to look at 3 of the zoning issues that would have a condition that is housing units 3 stories high or high density. That CAC was charged first with reviewing the C1 zone, and it executed that review and submitted it, and it was approved in early 2023 by the Board of Trustees. And it then took up the next zone, the VC, not the VC zone, but the Pilot Conservation 284 ordinance in February of 2023, and the CAC committee has been reviewing that ordinance extensively through today. In fact, we had one of the last meetings. The recommendations will be presented in an open meeting on February 1st, 2 open meetings, and it'll be before you in a few months. So the last remaining ordinance that will need to be reviewed is the VC zone. And this is the ordinance that caused the greatest grief amongst the residents and the greatest opposition. It is the one ordinance that does not have a moratorium, and we are vulnerable to another 3-story apartment complex at any time a developer wishes to come in that zone. The zone is represented from Enchanted Valley, Green Valley, south on the 4th Street corridor to a little past Sadie's. So I ask and I humbly request that we take and ensure that we have a high priority in the review of the VC zoning and get it modified, and if at all possible, if we can put a
The
moratorium.
speaker's time has expired.
It would be appreciated. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Margaret Bell, if you would please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Margaret Bell, 1004 Salamanca, Los Ranchos. My concern is the density of the VC zone. I urge you to prioritize placing a moratorium on development in that zone until the Citizens Advisory Committee can make a decision and present it to you. We are not a metropolis. That zoning currently is appropriate, may be appropriate for metropolises. We are not a metropolis. We are 6,000 people in a rural setting, and we want to remain that way. I think everyone here in the room has expressed opinions about the density. We don't want any more of that kind of project. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa Rea?
Teresa Rael, 1005 El Alhambra Circle, Los Ranchos. I've been a resident in Los Ranchos since 1962. And in the last 2 to 3 years, I've involved myself in the neighborhood HOA and in attending village meetings, Friends of Los Ranchos, and Keep Los Ranchos rural meetings. So currently, I'm the president of the HOA of El Caballero Norte. And so I took the time to speak to several residents in my neighborhood, South El Caballero and Tenon Farms. And on behalf of all of those neighbors, I too am asking the mayor and the trustees to prioritize and support a moratorium on the VC zone, excluding what has not already been approved. And that would allow time to review the current ordinances in the VC zone. Specifically, as Robert stated, no further development of more than 2 stories, decrease the current 24 dwelling units per acre. The setbacks need to be more flexible, not requiring anyone to build right on the sidewalks, and addressing any other ordinances that do not support our village values. And then on another note, I would like to suggest that maybe the village think about hiring an event planner. I don't know if there's one currently in place or not. I think Los Ranchos is very diverse. It's got a lot of historical culture. And I think the venues would actually bring people together. And they don't need to be venues of thousands of people. Small venues are just as nice. And thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Ray Savetic, please.
Ray Savetic, 319 Nuevo Hacienda Lane, Northwest. I'm just here to add additional opinion, what we think that most of the residents of the village want. And it's just to keep the village as rural as we possibly can going forward. Granted, we've already been nicked up a little bit with that, but I don't need the rest of the 3 minutes, but I just want us to charge ahead with that.
Thank you. Ms. Gordine McKenzie.
Gordine McKenzie, 7315 Guadalupe Trail, Northwest. Mayor and trustees, thank you so much for serving in the village to represent the residents. Recently, I've been viewing some of the P&Z meetings and other meetings online. And what I have seen is really productive discussions that have gone on among the commissioners where they consider the impacts of decisions on the residents. However, I've also seen some commissioners shut down those discussions that could have been recommendations or considerations that could have gone along with getting something approved. And I would just like to say, I'm hoping that in both the BOT and the P&Z, that those discussions will continue. And, you know, if you need to attach amendments, if you need to make recommendations, if you're not comfortable voting for something, continue those discussions. I do also support a moratorium on the village center. David Montoya brought it to our attention a long time ago. 12 units required as a minimum on half an acre, and 24 units required on a whole acre. We can't have that. I'm hoping that we as a community all together can look at those ordinances and those master plan and come up with something better that reflects the values of the residents of the village. And that includes the non-human residents as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Nancy Nangeroni.
Hi. Whoops. Hi, Nancy Nangeroni, 7315 Guadalupe Trail. First, I want to welcome the mayor and new trustees, and I want to say I appreciate all the trustees. I think we have a great team up here, and I was really enjoying the laughter that I was hearing earlier. I hope that our meetings will be lighter than they used to be, or than they were for the last couple of years. I need to set the record straight. At our last meeting in December 18th, I think it was, I spoke about the lawsuit that is now in my name about the Open Meetings Act. And I'm not going to talk about the lawsuit itself. I can't really do that. But at the time, I was very upset last meeting, because I felt the village attorney was acting more as an advocate than as an advisor. I felt like she was giving a biased presentation, and I was very upset about that. And in my upset, I said some things that weren't exactly right. The OMA lawsuit, I said, was originally brought by the Friends of Los Ranchos and then changed to be in Joe Craig's name, and that's not right. I was a member of the original committee that approved the filing of these lawsuits, all of the lawsuits in the name of Friends and Joe. And we initially filed lawsuits in the name of Friends of Los Ranchos, but then when we started really looking at what are we gonna get out of this whole mess, we're spending a lot of money with lawyers, and it didn't look like anything was gonna come of it. And a solution to that was putting the MOA, the open meetings, the OMA lawsuit in the name of an individual, because then that would allow to recoup legal expenses. So that lawsuit was never originally in the FOLR name. It was always filed as an individual. And I also said that I thought residents would be able to get reimbursed for the money they put in. That was incorrect. I've been informed that residents aren't going to get reimbursed, even if there is reimbursement for our legal expenses in the OMA lawsuit. That will not be going to residents who gave in the early days when we were trying to get attention. And also, and I forgot to say, I forgot to say that the reason that I ended up being the person who took over for Joe Craig was because I had filed a complaint with the Attorney General's office, just like he did initially.
The speaker's time has expired.
I just want 10 seconds. I just want to say that I also agree that we should have a moratorium on the village center zone. That zoning is abhorrent. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Loretta Chavez-Smith.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. My name is Loretta Chavez Smith. I live at 536 Chavez Road Northwest. Number one, yes, please do a moratorium on the VC zoning. It is imperative. Number two, I'm going in a different direction. I'm still up here 4 months, 6 months into this. Nothing has been done at Los Ranchos School on Los Ranchos Road when the kids are getting out of school. New signs went up. The road goes like this. The sign faces like this. No parking from 7 to 4. Who's going to read that? Our kids and parents are parking on the street, and they are crossing the street. No cross people to help them with the stop signs. They're crossing the street, and traffic is going like this. And we're going like this. I pick up my great-granddaughter every day, and I see this for a half an hour. Nothing's been done. Something needs to protect our children in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Malleves?
I, for one, as a voter in this village, did not appreciate at all the attempt by Palindrome and the attempt by the Guadalupe Chavez group, Jim Long, to nullify the votes of this village in electing a new mayor and 2 new trustees. It was an obvious, I thought, but clumsy effort on their part. And I think all of us here should be outraged that our former mayor, our former village attorney played a role in that effort. And I'm been especially disturbed by the aspersions that were cast on our new mayor, accusing him of a conflict of interest. And I want to say that trying to correct the obvious violations of ordinances that have taken place is never a conflict of interest. It's a conflict of interest not to do that. And you as trustees and the officers of the village as officers have all taken oaths of office to follow the law. And unfortunately, our Board of Trustees did not do that. Except for Mr. Benavides, he didn't vote at all. And I think it's an outrage, frankly. And I want to just say this. After my review of the documents produced to me by the village, I believe there have been important violations of law, and those violations of law are stated in the objections, the appeals, and the lawsuits that have been filed by the residents and by friends, and with the cooperation of Robert Chavez and his organization. And these violations of law are set forth in detail. We call those violations of law to the attention of the mayor, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the trustees. And they did nothing about it, nothing. One trustee didn't vote at all. Mr. Radnovich was disqualified from voting. But the staff, Maida, Ruben, Tiffany, Justice before that, I don't know what instructions they were given, but their interpretation of the development agreement on which that was the excuse that was used for the violations that have taken place was a sad thing to see.
The speaker's time has expired.
Okay.
Mr. Eves, before you leave the podium, please state your name and address for the record.
You're right, I didn't do that. John M. Eves and 721 Chavis Road. And
Thank you.
I had more to say, but I just want to wrap it up, that this is not over. The lawsuits are pending, and they will be pursued. And thanks to Nancy, and those of us who can help and volunteer our effort will do that. This isn't over yet, and there's going to be accountability for the people who were involved.
The speaker's time has expired.
Thank you. Ms. Marcia Smiley, if you would, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening. Marcia Smiley, 623 El Paraiso Road Northwest. Hi, everybody. Congratulations. I'm glad you're all on board. Appreciate all your help. I'm one of the 20 or 30 volunteers that walked the petition around last April. I had probably 4 weeks out from broken leg surgery, and we feel very strongly about the petitions and the 600 signatures that we worked so hard to get. I implore you to uphold the moratorium and to extend it for as long as possible until we have no construction on 4th Street. We need to know what the traffic patterns are going to be. We need to know what the study will reveal, and I think too many decisions were made fast and furious, and now we have the opportunity to pump the brakes, slow down, and take a look at the consequences of our actions from the past before we continue with more high density, if at all. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Smiley. Mayor and trustees, with that, that concludes a public comment.
Thank you. Let's move on to 7, approval of the minutes. A, minutes December 13th, 2023, regular meeting. And B, minutes December 18th, 2023, special meeting. Is there a motion to approve both sets of minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Call for the question. Discussion. Sorry?
Yes, starting with me, I suppose. So correction in the minutes, I think. Let's see, on page 33, Danielle. Line 557, nope, sorry, that's not it. Oh my gosh, now I lost it. Somewhere in the minutes, I thought it was page 33. Oh yeah, it is. Okay, so Trustee Benavides reflected that he did not understand how the landscape plan for agriculture could be required as the seeds planted over the course of the next 5 years. That doesn't make sense, but I don't know if I said that verbatim. So I went to the video at 2 hours and 45 minutes, and I couldn't find it where I said that. I say all these amazing things, and then you pick something like this to put in the minutes, but that's okay. Could you look at that and maybe make a correction, please?
Mayor and trustee, yes, I will take a look at that and amend the minutes as necessary.
Okay. Let's see, I think that's it.
Mayor, I have a correction as well. Danielle, on page 28, some of my words got jumbled, I believe, as well. Line 358, I'd like to change versus to and then put a period after space on line 360. and then one separate sentence at the end that says 2.5 acres is easily enough land for wildlife if handled appropriately. And I'm happy to send you that if you'd like.
Mayor Trustee Radovich, I will correct those minutes and amend them accordingly. Or is there anything else?
I'll make a motion to amend the minutes as you both have explained to Danielle. Yeah, with your corrections.
I can second that.
Okay. So we'll call for a roll call vote. Trustee Benavides?
Yes?
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich?
Yes.
Trustee Renaud?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Departmental reports, Section 8. The departmental reports are included in the packet and reflect all of the activities listed. Ms. Maria Rinaldi will present her report. Do any of the trustees have questions for Maria? We will go trustee by trustee. So please present. I'm sorry, I might have moved a little too far there.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees. I'm going to be brief this evening. I just have a few highlights to add to some things that have happened since the departmental report was included in the packet in the past few days. Under phases 2A through 2C of the Forestry Revitalization Project, we had a 90% design review with the mayor yesterday, and he has authorized us to proceed to public information meeting on final design for public input, and that meeting will be held February 21st. It will be advertised widely. We will do our regular distribution to all the property owners on 4th Street and to update all the information. At the 90% design review, we had one additional estimate revision, one additional to the one that was revised in what you received in the packet. And for phase 2A, the engineer's estimate is currently at $10,799,000 approximately, including or excluding gross receipts tax. We have a little bit of a movement on our funding scenario there. We have submitted, the village has submitted the priorities for legislative appropriations, and an additional $725,000 was requested in this legislative session to close the gap, to put us in the position at the point of potential bid in August at this engineer's estimate to be able to go to bid with full funding on this project should we receive this legislative appropriation. So I thought that was really encouraging news. We have one piece of that puzzle missing, and that's still a memorandum of understanding to come before this board, hopefully in the February meeting, swapping some of our state of New Mexico funds that are not eligible for matching with the federal funding we received last year with state of New Mexico funds that are eligible for match. So that's one little piece that we're still working on, and I hope to have that MOU before you in February. That's all for phase 2. We will be opening the 4th Street Project office upon approval of the lease, once the mayor reviews it and authorizes the acceptance of the lease for a 4th Street Project office on Ranchitos and 4th Street in the former Wells Fargo building. We will have the 4th Street Project office there for the duration through construction and possibly for subsequent phases. The other project that I really want to touch on is the Chavez Road multi-use trail. Once again, we had a existing conditions review and discussion of potential design alternatives for public review on the Chavez Road multi-use trail. The mayor has authorized us to go to public information meeting on that. The consultant parametrics engineering and design will be putting together 3 potential alternatives of design for review by the public. They anticipate to have that to us, to the mayor and staff within the next week to 10 days. Once it is reviewed by staff and the mayor, that meeting will be scheduled and widely advertised as well. And just to refresh everyone's memory, this is a multi-use trail to traverse the entire length of Chavez Road from 4th Street to the MRGC ditch facility, the other side of Tenon Farms. That project is fully funded through design and, if necessary, acquisition of right-of-way, and potential for subsequent application to the same funding source, which is an alternative transportation program through the New Mexico Department of Transportation for construction funding, to be determined if an alternative is selected and the project is given the go-ahead. We anticipate that if an alternative is selected, we could be in full design for that project as early as May. That's Chavez Road. There is no request for additional funding at this point in time. Even though it is on the ICIP, it is funded through all current activities on that project. The other project that there's a lot of activity on is the Agri-Nature Center. We received $500,000 additional appropriation to continue the roadway improvements for paving at the Agri-Nature Center. A request for quotes through the New Mexico State Price Agreement for construction was issued on Tuesday, that was yesterday, the 16th, and we will be accepting quotes from qualified vendors under that state contract up until February 6th. Danielle will be receiving them in her office, and we will negotiate with a qualified quoter should we receive one. We hope to have that project under construction in March, completed by June. And Agri-Nature Center legislative appropriation that was submitted on behalf of the village was for $725,000 for additional improvements for ADA restrooms and classroom improvements to the interior of the Agri-Nature Center. And I believe that's all my updates, Mayor. I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Trustees, do you have any questions for Maria?
I do, yeah.
Trustee Benavides, please.
Okay, let's see, on page 59, for phase 2A through 2C, you talk about right-of-way and the issue that you have in contacting some of the property owners, right? How big of a deal is that? What if you can't ever get a hold of them?
Mayor, Trustee Benavides, trustees, in our discussions at 90% design review yesterday, we talked about the inability to contact the property owner at the intersection of Roll and 4th Street on the east side of 4th Street. And in lieu of the ability to acquire that property, we have to do some geo-testing to make sure that it's appropriate for ponding, permeability testing, soils testing, that kinds of things. And these ponds are dual purpose. They will be underground facilities. They will not be visible so that the surface can be used for any other alternative, small open space, pocket park, athletic facility. I mean, we're restricted only by our imagination, public parking. In lieu of that property, we have identified 2 smaller ones within the phase 2A corridor. And I really don't want to discuss what those properties are now until we make contact with the property owners, but they're 2 smaller ones that would accommodate, according to the drainage study, they could accommodate the flows that we needed that property for, but it would be on 2 separate ones, broken up and throughout the project, so might have a little more flexibility for additional use of the above ground surface. So we're continuing to move forward, trying to identify, trying to secure those properties. It's an entire right-of-way process. There's appraisals, there's negotiations, there's everything that it takes for acquisition of public property. These are not takings. These are negotiated at fair market value. And we continue with the testing at the El Pueblo intersection, the property on the northwest section of that corridor. We have completed all testings. We're waiting for one testing result. We are in negotiations with that property owner now. So that one I don't anticipate any issues with, and I believe that that one will move forward. We have full funding for right-of-way acquisition. That's not an issue. That was secured under COVID relief funds for the 4th Street project by application. And did I answer your question?
Well, I mean, could this potentially delay the project if the property owners don't talk to you?
Mayor, Trustee Benavides, trustees, yes, absolutely. That's why we're looking at alternative properties to the roll one. That's the only one we're having issues with. The other two alternatives, we've already made contact with them and have some understanding to allow for testing.
Okay. Another question. Let's see. Page 60. This one is in regard to handicap parking for phase 2 to be completed by June 30th. But we haven't started phase 2 90% design yet, or I'm sorry. But my question has to do, can we actually do that by 6:30 if we don't really know what the design of 4th Street is yet?
Mayor, Trustee Benavides, I think you might be confusing the project. That ADA handicap parking on phase 2 roadway improvements is at the Agri-Nature Center.
Okay, sorry, I had all this highlighted. For some reason, the highlighting disappeared on me. So the handicap parking for phase 2 is on the Agri-Nature Center?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Page 61. Chavis Road alternatives. So we haven't seen that. The board has not seen that yet, right?
Mayor, trustees, that's correct. The mayor reviewed them yesterday. No alternative. We discussed 3 potential alternatives, and the mayor authorized them to flesh those out for public review.
Okay. So the board will see it when the public sees it, which is fine.
Mayor, trustees, so we'll certainly make it available to the board if you'd like to see it at the time that the mayor sees it. It's at his
I'll let the others comment, but I'm okay either way. That's all the questions I have for you. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Benavides, Radnovich, I'm sorry. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, Maria. I just have a comment, mostly for the board. So there's no reason to answer, Maria. I don't need an answer. I know this is a 90% complete set of plans for 4th Street. This is on page 59. And I haven't said much about 4th Street recently because I felt a little stifled by the previous administration. But I think we need to ruralize this plan. I think the plan for 4th Street is about as rural as the projects that people have been yelling about for the last 2 years. So I really think we need to take another look at it, step back, and try to make it more in keeping with the village. Right now, it's a lot like the part of 4th Street between Osuna and Sadie's, only with flat curbs, estate curbs they're called, instead of curbs with a gutter pan. So I just wanted to make that comment. And I will be at that meeting. The other question I had, sorry, I lost my place. This one's probably not a question either. This is, I think, the same thing that Trustee Benavides said. 65% level is well beyond a review level. I'm glad we're finally going to see it. But if we tell them to go back to the drawing board, say, just as an example, that could happen, right?
I'm not sure what project you're talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the additional 4th Street project cost for the signage.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. And then I have a question about the Agri-Nature Center. The appropriation, the 2020 legislative appropriation in the amount of $212,000, it's on that same page, page 60, includes $2,000 for art in public places. Have we spent any of that money yet?
Mayor, Trustee Radnovich, that project, that appropriation is closed, and that art installation was made 2 days ago?
Oh, it was?
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
So
The one that we picked?
Yes.
That's excellent.
Yes, and I understand that the Arts and Public Places program gave us additional unspent funding by other entities to add to our appropriation, so we ended up with quite a significant installation, so you should go out and see it. I haven't seen it yet. I need to go out and see it myself, but it is in.
That's excellent. And did we put it in the field where all the geese collect that you can see from Rio Grande, or?
Thanks for the question, Mayor, Trustee Badnovich. It is quite a large mandala sculpture that is outside along the entrance roadway after you get through the trees on the left, where a pollinator garden will go around it. So right now it may look out of place, but that whole area is going to be a pollinator garden soon, and then it'll look very appropriate there.
Nice. That's great. That's all the questions I had for yours, Maria.
Mayor, may I?
Yes, please.
Ms. Rinaldi, thank you for your presentation. My questions may be very elementary because I'm trying to catch up with these projects. So when I'm looking at a 90% design review and taking into account what Trustee Radnovich, brought up with, maybe retooling a little bit, how does that look, and is that possible, and how would we go about doing that?
Mayor, Trustee Kiefer, trustees, the design at this stage has been through numerous public reviews. So, I mean, it's always at the call of the mayor and with the approval of the Board of Trustees to alter any project. But I would urge you to participate in the 90 design review. It is not an urbanized project. It is very context sensitive in its design, and I would welcome your participation in that and your ability to see what the 90% review is, including all of the design elements that have been added to it since the 60% review. So, but at any point in any project, things can be changed.
Okay, thank you for that. And I guess that leads me to my next question, is one of the things I heard multiple times, and I felt when I was on the other side, is the village does a poor job of communication on these projects and getting the notice out and encouraging attendance and encouraging people to be part of the process. And I don't know if that's because of the limitations with the ordinance of how far the notices go. So what are we doing to be proactive to encourage people to really attend outside of putting it on the website, Facebook? I mean, what else can we do?
Mayor, Trustee Kiefer, trustees, I'm very happy to answer that question. We exceed all requirements of not just the statutory postings of Public Information Meetings, Hearings, and Public Open Meetings Act. I personally deliver informational flyers to every single property owner affected by the project, whether they are tenants or business owners. And I mean, I see people shaking their heads, but I'm telling you that's true. And any business out there would tell you that they see me on numerous occasions. We hold open houses. We had significant participation in a 3-day business open house that was held. And we are following up to every single business owner who did not attend with the specifics of the project as it affects their property. So, always open to, I have business owners that assist in disseminating information. I wish David Montoya were here tonight. He personally goes to businesses and property owners. I'm open to anything. It is on Facebook. It is on the village website. I present at every single Board of Trustees meeting. If anybody has any ideas on who is not being reached and how we might reach them, please let me know. And we will be opening a forestry project office in March, right there in the project area.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
It's something we need to, fellow trustees, I think we need to brainstorm of how do we do this? How do we get this information out? Let's see, I'm gonna jump to the Chavez, the multi-use Chavez Trail project. So it looks like, this is in the very beginning stages. And I love the goal, improve safety, but public input will be solicited throughout. I guess that's probably more of a comment after my last question of really making sure, especially because of Chavez Road being a very sensitive road, that we really need to make sure that all residents have an opportunity to voice their concerns and or thoughts on what this project looks like. And then the only other question I had is I saw that there's a professional service agreement with Parametrics in partnership with Mr. Cog. So I'm assuming it's a piggyback contract. For those types of contracts, do those come before BOT, or because it's piggyback, it's accepted out?
Mayor, Trustee Kiefer, trustees, every contract I deal with comes before Board of Trustees.
Okay.
As a member entity with the Council of Governments, we can avail ourselves of all their retainer services, but the board must and did allow us to solicit through their RFP process, and then they approved. It was approved through the Council of Governments and accepted by the Board of Trustees. But yes, everything I do comes through you.
Okay, I was just curious how that worked. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I just have a couple of things to talk about. One, obviously, as a new member of the board, I haven't seen those contracts, okay? So I'd like to be able to take a look at them, because when I look at the numbers here, we have some large numbers. And the numbers themselves stand out to me, but I want to try and understand then how those numbers fit into the overall budget of a project, okay? And typically in the work that I've done over the years, what I've been asked to present, to boards and others who I've worked with, is show me what the budget is, show me the numbers that are going to be in various phases of the project, and show me the deliverables, and then if there's a variance, so that I can make some determination about whether those monies are being spent the way that they were intended in terms of the project. Certainly trust your ability to do that, but I'd like to be able to take a look at each of the projects and each of the contracts that we have in order to understand what percentage of those contracts are being completed, what we have left, whether there's going to be overruns, whatever, okay? So if that's possible, that would be very helpful.
Mayor, Trustee Renwell, trustees, absolutely. And the process that you just described is exactly what we go through. Exactly. Plus, we have an additional set of eyes, sometimes two, state of New Mexico, Federal Highway Administration, so state and federal also have to review, approve, and audit. So it is a very, very thorough, I assure you, it's a very, very thorough process. And absolutely, anytime you'd like to see those contracts, they're available through Danielle, or you are free to come meet with me.
What would be helpful to me, though, is that when we talk about the progress on these projects, that we're able to identify the percent of the work that's been done. And then what then still has to remain in terms of the monies that are available. I know that some of these projects require additional funding. They may take months or maybe even years in order to secure, but it would certainly give me a better perspective on how much is being spent, when, and for what purpose.
Mayor, trustee, I'm happy to add to my report a percentage completion, and I actually do require that all of our consultants provide a progress summary with every invoice they submit to justify the percentage of which they are billing the village, and I gladly add that to this report.
Well, very good. And the other part of this is that are these contracts that are coming through, are they on-call contracts? Are they contracts that exist for a specific deliverable? So as an example, Behan and Houston, you know, is that a contract that you have for on-call? Or is that something that is specific to the given project?
Mayor, trustee, whether it's on-call is always specific to a project, and even on-call are required to submit a scope and fee for consideration. They're not just automatically accepted. That's why we have multiple professional service providers on retainer so that we have a choice. Also, some funding sources allow the use of retainer if they follow a procurement code they're comfortable with, which ours does, or they are required for full RFP. Bohannon Houston for 4th Street Phase 2 is an on-call that was accepted at solicitation of a scope and fee. So it depends on the funding source. It depends on what we have available to us, time frames, how quickly projects need to turn around, and expertise. So we have numerous tools for procurement. We may have engineers on retainer, but we may choose to do a full RFP. Engineers that are on retainer can respond to both. They can submit under the RFP a fee and scope, or they can participate in a full-blown RFP. So there's any number of scenarios that can take place. And our retainer services agreements are set to expire. Danielle and I are meeting now to discuss the issuance of a new RFP. Existing contracts are not subject to a new RFP. They can continue on for the life of that contract issued under that RFP, and even can be extended per the scope. But that's something that you will see shortly as well. You'll see a new request to let an RFP for professional services.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you, Maria. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Acting Administrator Josh O'Halloran, could you give your report? You have a report?
Thank you, Mayor. I just will take questions from the governing body. If you have any questions on any of the rest of the reports, the staff is happy to answer your questions.
Trustee Benavides?
Yeah, I do have a few questions for you, Josh. Let's see. I had my packet all annotated and highlighted, and something all disappeared. So let's see, on page 52, there's a mention of a is this your department? Yeah, this is your department report. 1.25 million for Old Village Hall, right? That we received under a quality of life grant. Does it come with those kind of constraints? It must be for Village Hall?
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Benavides. Yeah, this specific application, grant application, was done to make improvements to Old Village Hall.
Okay, so it cannot be applied anywhere else, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, so that's one question. And, oh, yeah, so I did ask you before the meeting started about if tickets for the Matanza were for sale, and you said starting today, they are for sale. So, thank you for that. That's all I have. Thanks, Josh.
I have nothing, other than good job.
I have a couple questions. And let's see. That one was already asked and answered. Actually, I have nothing. Thank you.
I just have a couple, well, one question was about Edgewood Park. Okay, you know, it says here that it's going to be, that you've got 120 days. And so can you kind of describe for us then what kind of activity is going to be going on there? I mean, you've got traffic obviously on Asuna, you've got traffic from people coming out of Edgewood. You know, have those folks been contacted? Do they know what the schedule is going to be so that they can be aware of the activity going on in the park area?
Thank you, Mayor, Trustee Renaud. Yes, so this project has been underway for a while. We've had plenty of several public meetings. If you've gone by in the last couple days, they have a temporary fence around the park area. All their vehicles and all their activity is happening on the park. There's not any vehicles or impact to the roadway at all. So there's, yeah, no traffic impacts.
Okay, all right. The other question I have is that what's going on in terms of monitoring the open space? There's been a lot of effort put into, and Trustee Benavides and I were out there planting trees, you know, and I know that there's a lot of activity that went into it. So what's going on in terms of monitoring it to make sure that the space is going to be, is going to fulfill its intended purpose?
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Renaud, I believe you're referring to the Paseo del Norte open space. Yeah, so as you know, some trees went in. We also are putting in a pathway that'll go around the property, and we have our quotes from that, and we'll have a nice little trail that goes through there. As far as the open space and managing that, next meeting in February, our contract farmer will be presenting his farm plan to the board at the trustee meeting with what he anticipates doing planting on those fields this coming growing season. And you'll have an opportunity to ask him questions about that farm plan, which which the mayor and I have both reviewed with that farmer.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Planning and zoning, Maida, could you please give your report?
Thank you, Mayor. So mostly I'll stand for any questions you have, but I do realize now, thank you to Robert Chavez for plugging our public meeting. I don't think I put that in there. There will be 2 public meetings on February 1st to present the latest on the Ordinance 284 pilot project proposed revisions. And with that, I'll stand for any questions. Oh, and the times are 2 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. Thanks.
Any questions?
Not for me.
I have a question. Maida, just regarding the public meeting on February 1st, 2 p.m., 5:30, Village Hall?
Thank you, Village Hall, yes.
And Danielle, I think this would be a question for you. If trustees want to attend, do we need to do a notice of a potential quorum?
Absolutely. So we'll publish the meeting under our government legals for the actual times, dates of this meeting, and then in addition, we will also notice that it could be a potential quorum at that time as well.
Perfect.
Both times, actually.
So we'll be okay to
So you will
attend.
be okay to attend at either time.
Perfect, thank you. Maida, the only question I had, and thank you for the report, is it did a very good job of summarizing 2023. Are you seeing anything in the pipeline, anything major for 2024 yet?
Thank you, Mayor and Trustee Kiefer. No one has approached me about any major projects for 2024. We're seeing a lot of very typical flow of development, so residential builds and renovations, variance requests, that type of thing. So nothing major at this time.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Just to kind of follow up with that, when in taking a look at the 2023 results, what I'm interested to find out is, are there any kind of standing applications for development within the VC zone?
Mayor and Trustee Raynow, the only standing applications would be the ones that are already under process. So, you know, the Village Center project has not applied yet for future sites, developments on that site. I believe Nijmegen would be coming back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for final plat approval. Nothing you haven't heard of is underway currently. Thank you.
That's the only question I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Public safety, Mr. I was hesitating with your name. We got so many R's around.
You guys are going to be the minority now, huh?
Yeah.
Mayor and trustees, just one thing I want to update you on is in my report. There's a section on flock safety that I've been meeting with. They're a company, a technology company that installs cameras and technologies. They currently have systems in Bernalillo County. They currently have systems in Rio Rancho and the town of Bernalillo and other places within the state. We are looking at contracting out with them. I presented some stuff to the mayor and to the administrator this week to include the village. And what those cameras do is they read license plates, and they're able to flag stolen vehicles. They're able to do a lot of, if vehicles are wanted for anything or suspected or anything. But the important thing is, if we have something happen in the village, and I'll just use this as an example, it's a white Lincoln with a bumper sticker on the back. The Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office can query that, and it will pull up every white Lincoln that came through that camera within the last 30 days to help us do some things. That is where law enforcement is going technology-wise, and Albuquerque has had tremendous success on their camera system. Bernalillo County, like I said, is just now getting theirs up and running. We're going to have some on Alameda. Our plan right now is to put some on 4th Street and some on Rio Grande Boulevard and on Osuna. And I think we're going to, and what happens is that stuff is directly fed into the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department cars, so that it automatically goes to the deputies that are out in the field if something pops up. And I think it's going to be the future. But the future's already here, so we're looking at that. But I just wanted to update you on that. That's something that we're looking at very seriously.
Thank you, Fred. I'd like to add, I think, you know, we're in a community here that's extremely high-tech with our labs and everything else, and for us to be able to look at public safety on a high-tech version here is great, and the cost is very affordable. So, thank you, Fred.
Question.
Yes, please.
Oh, go on.
Do those cameras record speed?
No. On the speed cameras, Trustee Benavides, Mayor, if I can, I've reached out to Bernalillo County because they have started a pilot program under their Public Works Department, and we are, I'm going to work with them and see if we can piggyback on their speed cameras. So.
Mayor, trustees, my question, Fred, I think that sounds really good. How big are these devices?
You'll never see them.
Oh, you never see them? How are they hidden?
They're just on poles and they're run by solar.
So they're small. They're not going to increase the clutter on streets.
Absolutely not. You won't even notice them. Actually, we're going to put them on existing poles. They could be on the speed boards, light poles, that type of stuff. But they're very, very small, compact, and run by solar.
Excellent. Thanks, Mayor.
The only comment that I had is it was very telling in looking at your report. The traffic citations on Rio Grande has gone up pretty significantly.
Yeah. Mayor and Trustee, one of the things I've been working on since the first of the year is in February, I will present to the board a recap of all the activities from the Sheriff's Department for 2023. And I think we'll be pleasantly surprised with the number of traffic stops that they made within the village in the last year. But all the calls for service, I get calls for service from them every month, and then I kind of go through them and detail them here, some of the things that I think are important. But I will have a complete report for 2023 at the February meeting.
I guess the question that I would have, Fred, is there a way that with the information that's being collected, that you and the Sheriff's Department can identify areas in the village that are subject to higher crime, whether it be property or other types of crime, so that officers then can be reassigned to those areas in order to try and stop that from happening, or at least reduce it from happening?
Mayor and Trustee, like I said, I get a monthly report. The captain and I meet either on the phone or in person, probably once every week, once every 2 weeks, and we discuss those areas. And I'll use this example. If we start having some issues in tenant farms, and I'll just use that example, they will then prioritize that for their deputies to patrol that and conduct. And one of the things you'll see on here is where they call them welfare checks, and that's what they're doing. They're specifically working that specific area for a time, looking for certain things or just being very visible.
Thank you. Thanks, Fred.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Let's move on to 9, financial business, discussion and approval of the December 2023 cash report.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Before you is the cash report for December 31st, 2023. The ending balance as of December 31st,
Do you want to
2023.
Interrupt for just a minute? Why don't we take a 5-minute break? Here's, if that would be all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great idea.
If the village has some reason to want the property to remain a food store, then this is what we can do.
Oh, okay. I do Josh. Bill's working on that. Thank you. It's now 4 minutes till 9 o'clock. We're resuming the meeting. Let's go to the discussion and approval of the December 2023 cash report. Will?
Yes, sir, thank you. Again, before you is the ending cash balance report for December 31st, 2023. The ending balance is $12,111,963.74, which is an increase of $315,496.98 for the month. Year-to-date deficiencies of expenditures over revenues is a negative $109,096.85. Thank you. With a few unusual and significant items listed below.
Thank you. Do we want to do our CFO? Okay. Tammy Silva, I see you in the big screen. Our proposed cash report. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and trustees. Excuse my voice, I'm getting over losing it, so I hope you can hear me okay. Behind the normal cash report is the same cash, the start of the same cash report, and it shows proposed. And what this is this is a proposed change to the current cash report that you're seeing monthly, to be able to prepare information for you sooner so that the packet can go out before the having to wait for the all the financial information at the end of each month. And so what I've proposed here is to allow us to get the packet out sooner. If it is something that you would wish to do, I could present to you the current cash report, the first page, which lists the month and the balance end on a certain day of the month, and then still list all of the unusual or significant items that have occurred. And then behind that, we would just be presenting the check register. And so the reason for this proposed change, again, there's a couple reasons. Number one, this is standard across most of the municipalities in the state that I've seen, is just presenting the cash check register to approve expenses for the month. And also this would allow me to get everything to you sooner, to Danielle and to the treasurer sooner so that we could get that into the packet sooner. The reason I've proposed this is, again, we've heard earlier tonight, more time is needed to look through the packet. And if this proposed change were to take place, there's a couple of things I'd like for you to note. Number one, you'd be approving the cash check register each month, and I would be able to provide you a cash balance on a specific date, and that date would be listed on page 1. And number two, the cash report that you're used to seeing right now would still be provided to you. It just would not be provided in the packet. Once month end ends, I would still put all that information together. I would send it to Will for approval. And then once he approves that, that would be disseminated to all of you via email so that you still have that information available. And so that is just a proposed change for discussion, if it's something that you would wish to see in the future so that the information can get out sooner.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the 2023 cash report?
Motion to approve the, what do you call it, 2020,
2023 cash, December 2023
December
cash.
2023 cash report. Sure.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion from the governing body?
Yes. Tammy, I do like seeing what we call the revenue information report, which is where you plot the total GRT month to month, right? Is that a delay as well to get that out? Does that cause a delay?
Yes, so Mayor Trustee Benavides, that would cause a delay because the revenue comes in every single day through the end of the month or through the last business day of the month.
Okay.
So that would cause a delay to get it into what you're seeing in front of you at the meeting. However, that is still something, if you were to change to just the check registers in the meeting, that is still something I would put together as soon as month end comes through and I have the information, and that would be sent to you via email.
I see. So it wouldn't make this the required, I don't know, at least what a minimum of 72 hours that you need to have or something like that. You're saying we would get the information by way of email by the time we had our BOT meeting, but it just would not be in the packet, right? Is that correct?
Mayor Trustee Benavides, that is correct. That is
Okay.
something that we can discuss. I can still have that to the board at a certain time. It just would not be in the packet because that would not allow for us to get the packet out sooner for review.
Okay, I'm okay with that. But, you know, so, I mean, looking at the GRT report, I can't help but note that we broke $500,000 in 1 month. That's a first, right? I mean, it's just one data point. Doesn't mean it's something that'll continue. But I mean, I don't know if that's a typical high point for December or not. But I just thought it was an interesting milestone. And I know when I look at the statement of revenues and expenditures, you have what you call current period to date budget. And you're in I think the first column where you have 379,000, that's basically what you're forecasting that we would get. So we far exceeded it for the month of December. So my question would be, are we going to keep with that forecast of 379,000 in a month?
So Mayor Trustee Benavides, right now we are keeping with that forecast because as you can see through the rest of the other months that we've received, we haven't seen something that high. So I am actually going to try and get a report from our contact at the state to see if they can break down exactly what that is from. It could be from a few different things that have happened. One of them could be the construction going on. It could also be from some revenue that we had not collected due to incorrect GRT revenue that was received from some of our vendors incorrectly, and it was sent to the wrong place. So let me get that information from the state so that we can understand if this is a one-off or if we're going to start seeing this trend and seeing these higher numbers monthly, then we can potentially adjust that forecast, and we will definitely be looking at that for the next year's budget and what we forecast for GRT in the next fiscal year, because I will start that budget process next month.
So I'm in total agreement with what you said. I would prefer to be conservative, even if it was a real number and there were no errors. But it's just a one data point, and I would not want to overreact. So I'm in total agreement with you, Tammy. Thank you.
Trustee Radovich.
Thanks, Mayor. We've had, did we buy a second truck? Because I noticed the village paid Chalmers Ford $45,000. Didn't we buy a truck 3 months ago? And is this a second one, or is this just showing up again and again on our on our ledger here?
Mayor, Trustee Radnovich, so that is correct. We did buy a second truck. We bought the first truck at the beginning of the fiscal year, and that was actually a truck that we had purchased, or we had hoped to purchase in the prior fiscal year, but due to everything being backlogged and waiting on the truck, it ended up being delivered to us in this fiscal year. So that was technically the vehicle from last year. We've been trying to replace our vehicles or see the needs that we have, one vehicle a year. And so that was from fiscal year 23 that just, we had to move into fiscal year 24 because we did not receive the vehicle timely. And then the truck that you're seeing now, so that first one, I'm sorry, was a maintenance truck. The truck you're seeing now that was just purchased is a farm truck for the Ag Center, and that one was budgeted for this year.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, I thought I was seeing things. Well, good eye. Thanks. Yeah, I also was amazed at our revenue in December. That's just awesome. A lot of Christmas presents there. Why, and this is just a question, I had it last month and I didn't ask it, but on page 68, we continue to show financing sources as losses. Is that because it's financing? Is that why those are always losses?
So Mayor Trustee Radnovich, no. So that depends on that. The financing sources that you're seeing there are transfers in and out between different funds. The reason you're seeing them as a negative number here in the general fund is because we have budgeted to move that amount of money out of the general fund into each of those different funds if we are able to at the end of the year. So while you're seeing them as a negative in the general fund, when we move them, if that happens at the end of the year, you're going to see that as a positive into the fund that it's going into. And so if we were moving funds the other way from another fund into the general fund, you would be seeing that as a positive number in the general fund and a negative number in the other fund. So yes, that does look like a loss there, and it would be losing money from the general fund, but it would not be a total loss. It would just be moving it from the general fund to the respective fund that we have budgeted for different reasons.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I had no other questions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Trustee Kiefer?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tammy. I wanted to let the other trustees know that I came and spent probably about a good 2 hours of Tammy's time a few weeks ago so she could help get me acquainted with these reports, and she was really helpful, so thank you, Tammy, for that. To the gross receipts tax report that you can get from the state, I'm just wondering, is that something that maybe, I don't know if quarterly would be excessive, but maybe every 6 months that we just kind of automatically include? Just because I wonder, how much is being driven by construction versus actual, people spending money here in the village?
Mayor, Trustee Kiefer, trustees. So the report that I get from the state, I actually get that every single month. And it is a lot of information, but it is absolutely something if you want to see. When I can give that to you. I can do that monthly, quarterly, every 6 months, whatever you would like to see. At any point, you can email me and say, can I take a look at that? It's actually the report that is available on the New Mexico Tax and Rev website. And so at any point, anyone really can go in and look at it. However, I can provide that at any point. And every month when our GRT comes in and it hits the bank, I put together a report that I will be sending to all of you that shows how much revenue we received in GRT for that month. So we have not received it yet for January, but as soon as that happens, I will be putting that together. And it's a report that shows all of that information with some graphs. And if you would like me to include the report from the state at that point, I could absolutely do that. That way, if you want to take a look at it, you can.
I'll defer to your expertise, whether it's overkill or not.
Okay, Mayor and Trustee Kiefer, then what I think I'll do is I will give that to you this first month because it's something new you're seeing. And so I will give you both pieces, and then you can take a look at it, and I will remove all of the extra information because it's a big report with a lot of different tabs. I'll include only what I think you might be interested in, and we'll give you what you're looking for. And then from there, we can discuss if you think even that was too much and if you only want to see it every so often.
Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah, Tammy, thank you very much. It's a lot of data. It's a lot of data. But I wanted to get back, though, to the proposal that you made. I certainly agree with other members of the board that it would be very helpful. The thing that I'd also like to suggest is to find a way, if, to get this information to the public prior to the BOT meeting, if it's not going to be in the packet, so that the public could have access to it, for them to be able to review where the expenditures are going, where the income is coming from. I think that could be helpful. And I know in talking with people around the village that they do look at it. So if there's a way to do that, and again, it wouldn't be in the packet, but as a way to get that information out, that would be helpful.
Tammy, this is Danielle, and Mayor and Trustees, I'd just like to interject. With the decision you made tonight in moving our meetings to the third Tuesday, this may change the dynamics of this proposed cash report. So consider that, that what she put in this packet, of course, we're not voting on that tonight. We're just approving the current December cash report, but that may not have to change. It's depending on what you choose to see moving forward, but the timeliness now will be a little bit different.
Mayor, I have another question that just came to mind. Tammy, do you keep track of projects? For instance, just use the 4th Street project as an example, or maybe even the prior 4th Street project. Do we keep track of how much we spend on not only the project construction, but also the consultants, our project manager, agency monies that might come in or get spent? Do we have a ledger on the projects? Like, do we have project accounting within the village?
So Mayor Trustee Radnovich, I do keep track of projects. A lot of that is because we do get audited. So within each state appropriation, I have exactly how much we've spent to make sure that we don't overspend an appropriation. I have how much we spend for each company or contractor that has been obligated funds to. So we do have that. I have that tracking mechanism within all of the state appropriation and grant files. As it in turn to contractors and that sort, I can track that based on a fiscal year, a monthly. It just depends on the type of information you're looking for. Now, I don't keep track of every single thing for every project readily available because I wear too many hats. However, everything that I'm required to track for federal or state funds that we are going to get audited for, that is already accounted for. Anything else I can easily do and get that information. But if it's coming out of our general fund and we don't need a tracking mechanism beyond our contract amount or what we need for our state or federal grants, then that I would have to take some time to do because I only right now have the ability to track what I absolutely have to right now.
So, and I'm not trying to increase your work, but if we had a question about one of the projects, you would be able to produce that, given you have the time.
Mayor Trustee Ranovich, absolutely. I could produce that information and get you whatever information we needed as to whatever project or whatever appropriation that you're looking for.
I think that would be very helpful, Mayor, just to see how much we're really spending on these projects and where. Thanks, Tammy. Good job.
Any other questions? Okay, the floor is now closed for comments. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the cash report.
Second?
Mayor Craig, we already had a motion made by Trustee Benavides, a second by Trustee Ranovich, so we'll go into call for the question at this point.
Okay, so we're going to call for the question. Call for the roll call vote. Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich?
Yes.
Trustee Renaud?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0. We're now into B, discussion and approval of resolution number 2024-01-02, a resolution approving a budget adjustment bar, recommendation budget revisions related to the Fire Protection Fund 209 for the Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque. Tammy, could you please, do we need a motion to approve the resolution 2024-01
Mayor Craig,
first? Or?
CFO Tammy Silva will present the resolution before we go into a motion.
Thank you.
Mayor Trustees, before you is the resolution 2024-01-02 for a budget revision to the Fire Protection Fund. And this bar, as we call them, this budget adjustment is to increase our fire fund, both the revenue and the expenditure side, by $125,790. The reason for this bar is we just awarded from the state a fire protection structural distribution. And at the beginning of the year, we receive usually a fire protection fund allocation from the state, and we already got that in. However, the county applied for a second set of funds, which was for structural need, and we were awarded $125,790 from the state. This came to us just a couple weeks ago, and so this bar in front of you is to adjust both the revenue and the expenditure to include this new money we've received to be in line with budget restrictions and state statutes to make sure that we do not overexpend the fund. So I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 2024-01-02?
Sure. Motion to approve resolution 2024-01-02.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion from the governing body?
I have none.
None? Okay. Let's call for the question, call for the roll call vote. The floor was closed for comments, I'm sorry. Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich?
Yes.
Trustee Renaud?
Yes.
The motion carries 4-0. We're on section 10, public hearing, ALL 23-04 request by the Ivy LLC, DBA the Ivy Tea Room, 3537 Plano Vista, Northeast Rio Rancho, New Mexico, 87114, for a restaurant, beer, and wine license with on-premise consumption with patio service. The business is located at 8830 4th Street Northwest, Los Ranchos de Albuquerque, New Mexico, in the C1 zone of the 4th Street character area and is legally known as Lot A, the magical T-Land, being a replat of Tract 102A1, MRGCD Map 24 in the projected Section 16, Township 11 North, Range 3 East, NMPM, Town of Alameda Grant, Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, New Mexico, as recorded in the office of the Bernalillo County Clerk on November 8, 2019. The project contains 0.05356 acres, more or less. Before we get started, let's ask everyone for any disclosure of real or potential conflicts of interest or any ex parte communications on this item of business. Trustee Benavides?
I have none.
Trustee Kiefer?
None.
Trustee Radnovich?
None.
Trustee Rennell?
None.
Mayor Craig? None. All participants who signed up to speak on this item of business, please stand. Attorney Chappell will swear you in.
Anyone who's going to speak on this issue should be sworn in. Just one? All right. Even if you're against it, if you're going to speak, okay. Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law? Thanks.
Okay. Would you, Danielle, would we want to have them come up to speak?
At this time, Mayor, we're going to go ahead and turn the mic over to Planning and Zoning Director Amita Rubin to present the application.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before you is a request by the IVT Room for a restaurant, beer, and wine liquor license with on-premises consumption at 8830 4th Street. The property is Zone C1. The properties to the north, south, and west are zoned C1, and the property to the east is in Bernalillo County and zoned R1. The C1 zone lists food and alcohol service as a permissive use with alcohol sales between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m. as a conditional use and sales between 2 a.m. and 8 a.m. as prohibited. The applicant is not seeking conditional use approval to serve alcohol later than 12 a.m. A distance waiver is not required for this application as the premises is beyond 300 feet of a church or a school. Again, this is a permissive use in this zone, but it does require board approval because it is a liquor license. The department recommends approval of LL 23-04, a request for a restaurant beer and wine license with on-premises consumption with the findings included in the planning report. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I have none.
I have.
Mayor, we're going to go ahead and at this time ask the applicant to come up to the podium.
Okay. Ms. Gonzalez, please. Okay. Please state your name and address. For the record, you have 10 minutes.
Mr. Mayor and trustees. It's not on. It's not on. I'm not very loud either. You're okay. Okay. I don't think that's working. Is it? Okay. So my name is Andrea Gonzalez, and I'm the owner of the LLC, the Ivy LLC, and I am in the works of purchasing the current IVT room located on 4th Street, the 8830 4th Street in Los Ranchos. I'm excited and eager to be part of the Los Ranchos community. So tonight, my goal is just to share just a little bit of the history. So the IVT room has been in business since 2015 in the Los Ranchos community. It currently is at its new location since 2020 and has a beer and wine license in operation today. The finalization of the sale will take place. We were waiting for this hearing. Alcohol is beer and wine license only, and I, as the new owner, don't intend to change any of the current operations.
My goal is to give our customers what they have been accustomed to this entire time and continue moving forward with the request to have a beer and wine license approval in most ranches. Any questions?
Mayor and trustees, there has no one has signed up to speak on this matter, adverse, in favor, or otherwise. However, I did place a comment that was received after the packet deadline, so it missed the inclusion. However, that's for your reference and to deliberate, but there has no one signed up tonight.
All right, so any questions?
I just got confused. You're already serving beer and wine?
Correct, but I am not the current owner. I am purchasing the IVT room from Amanda Tice.
Oh.
And it's been in operation with a beer and wine license right now through her. But being that I am making the purchase and I will be the current owner, I have to go through the process as well.
I see. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I have a question. So,
please.
I think I know the answer, but for the public information, beer and wine license, I assume means no bar. It means you need to order food to purchase beer and wine. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have another question, Mayor.
Yes.
So I've been in the IVT room before, and I've never noticed a commercial kitchen in there. Did a commercial kitchen get added by the last owner?
So we do have what's considered a commercial kitchen. We have an operational stove and we do all of our baking in-house, and all of our food courses are prepped daily. Not made to order on the spot, but everything's in preparation to put together as they order during the day.
I see. Yes. It's behind the counter.
Correct. So our kitchen is, when you're looking at the building, it's the first little entrance to the right. So when you're going into the building, we're to the left and it's the black door and it's a full kitchen.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to clarify then, what is being sold on premises is going to stay on premises? So it's not going to be any kind of a takeout at all?
Correct. It will be on premises inside the building and on the patio.
Questions?
Mayor, now that I'm reading this, will there be any music or any kind of live entertainment at the tea room?
I do not have any plans for that. There is music that plays inside the building, but other than that, I do not have any plans for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So again, one other question. So the parking that's available, and I'm familiar with the property, is going to be able to sustain the number of customers that you expect to be attending?
Yes, absolutely. Right now, we don't seem to have an issue with parking because we stagger reservations, is what I've heard from the current owner. So I have been watching everything and shadowing this month to get a grasp on what it's going to look like. And because reservations are staggered, our parking does not seem to be an issue.
Because I guess I would have somewhat of a concern if the parking ended up taking up the streets around the property.
I agree.
Thank you. All right, any more questions? Can we see, is there a motion to approve LL 2304, a request by the Ivy?
I can make a motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. We have discussion. Any more discussion? Okay. Floor. Yes.
I just wanted to bring up one other point, and this doesn't reflect at all on this property. I think that, we are at a point where we need to be able to identify the kinds of businesses that we want to attract to the village. So I would not like to see a number of similar kinds of restaurants in the village. I know that it can be a popular place to go, but the other part of it, though, is that we need businesses that can be self-sustaining, that are complementary to other businesses. It's a discussion beyond what we have here tonight, but it's just an issue that I think we as a board and as a community need to be able to address.
Thank you for saying that, trustee. I totally agree with you.
Any more questions? The floor is now closed for comments. Call for motion. Call for roll call. We already have it? Okay. We'll call for a roll call vote?
Yep.
Okay. Trustee Benavides?
Yes?
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Radnovich?
Yes.
Trustee Renaud?
Yes.
The motion is closed. That carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
New business, 11, discussion and approval of resolution number 2024-01-03, a resolution to designate a village representative to communicate to and with the village legal counsel, the Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque's position and direction on outstanding and potential litigation. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Chappell, do you need to talk here? Yes.
Mayor Craig, yes, at this time, we'll go ahead and have Attorney Chappell present.
Thank you.
Mayor and Board of Trustees, I am glad to be here. It was my first time in a while. I was sitting in this chair from 2006 until 2019, and so I have worn some calluses on this chair. When I was invited to come back after I resigned, for personal reasons, I was looking forward to that because I always enjoyed working with the village. I enjoyed the people here. It was an interesting place to be. And so I got started, and then I looked at, I hadn't been down here, but I looked at and had seen some of the litigation in the newspapers and so forth, and I'm not well acquainted or friends with anybody that's involved. And so when looking at that, I put some conditions in my representation agreement that were my own conditions, primarily to try to come in at a level which would mitigate against some of what I saw the issues going on. And I talked to both the current council, the Stelzner firm, they got their side of that. I talked to people on the Village of Los Ranchos, Friends of Los Ranchos side. And and a lot of it has to do, from my perspective, with the optics or the appearances of things. And so one of the things that I put in as a condition was that, first of all, I would not get involved directly in the litigation between the village and the cases then that were the Friends of Los Ranchos and the Open Meetings Act. When I did this, I didn't know there would be two new cases filed on January 1st and January 2nd, but those are not included in this. And so I thought the best approach would be to try to get representation on the village side in review of that, in really an impartial kind of an objective kind of way, because otherwise, if everyone's entrenched in their positions, it is going to go to court and drag out for a long time, that sort of thing, which I don't think is good for anyone. As the adage goes, in the litigation, the only people that make any money are the attorneys. And I went one step further that says I'm not going to handle any litigation for the village because I do not want my recommendations with respect to the village and its litigation to look like I'm trying to do something that takes more hours of my time and benefit from that. So that has been my perspective, is we try to get an objective approach. And I think the resolution that's being repealed is somewhat based upon the letter that I had written to the village administrator, placing what I thought were conditions on what should be done. One was new independent counsel to do a real evaluation. Also, I didn't think it would probably have a good appearance For instance, if Mayor Craig, in his executive position, was the person who was dealing with and supervising, so to speak, the litigation counsel. So I suggested that a board member be appointed to do the communications and then report back to the Board of Trustees. So anyway, that message came across and I think was somewhat adopted in the resolution that's being rescinded here. It also included some other things because there had been an opinion, an advisory opinion from the State Board of Ethics that can be read a number of different ways and may need to be clarified. And so I did not initiate the resolution, but I was asked through the clerk if that resolution could just be rescinded. Obviously, my view is if you want to just rescind that prior resolution, you can. However, my response was that there are some good things in that resolution that should be kept, and that the intent of what I was talking about should go forward. And so I provided some language, and now I've been asked to present it. And so that's where we are. First of all, the good things in that resolution was that it did say, let's go forward with independent counsel. And I think that needs to be retained, and I think that needs to be pursued sooner rather than later. Under my view of the world, I'm staying out of that so that it doesn't look like I'm trying to influence it one way or the other. We just need good, competent counsel. I'm not doing any aspersions about the Stelzner firm. In 2019, when I left, I'm the one that brought the Stelzner firm in to replace me so that the village would have counsel and not have any gaps. So I have no aspersions of that. I'm simply saying a lot of times, and I've read some of the pleadings, they become a part of the problem and not a part of the solution. Again, just perception. And so I thought independent counsel was necessary. The other thing is that in order to not have Mayor Craig, supervising that, I thought it would be good to have an appointed representative. That resolution appointed Trustee Benavides. I don't know Trustee Benavides. I know his relationship with the Nan Winter. And then I saw a letter he wrote, which is the last page of your board package, which seemed to say that he had some very strong opinions about what should happen in the litigation at this point. And with that being in the record, I thought, well, perhaps we need a more objective person to be that interface with counsel. So I suggested Trustee Renaud. I did not talk to him. I hope he is willing to do that. And so I put that in the resolution. The other thing that I thought was important in that resolution is the issue regarding the Governmental Conduct Act. And from my perspective, everybody involved in this process must very strictly comply with the provisions of the Governmental Conduct Act with respect to conflicts of interest and those kind of things that are there. Clearly, Mayor Craig was involved in the litigation prior to this, but he has stepped in as the mayor. He's now representing the village in this context. And so I wanted to try to clear that air. But there was a fatal flaw, I thought, in the previous resolution that we needed to correct. The Board of Trustees is the legislative branch of the village. The mayor is the executive branch of the village. You cannot find anywhere that the legislative branch of the village has the authority to restrict the statutory duties of the executive branch in the conduct of things like this. For instance, one of the statutory duties of the mayor is to cast a vote only if there is a tie. But the resolution said, as the mayor, he can't perform that. It's an analysis. Let's just suppose there was an impeachment trial going on in the Senate with the current president. And I bring that up because I know they're talking about things in the House. Well, under the Constitution, if there's a tie vote, the vice president breaks the tie. And so let's suppose there was a tie vote. I don't believe the Senate could pass a resolution that says that the vice president cannot break the tie vote because she's been very vocal in support of the president's position. So it's just out of the separation of powers that the legislative branch can dictate what the executive branch can do. So I thought that was kind of a fatal flaw in the resolution to begin with. So what I have done is just that. I've tried to preserve the independent counsel for a lot of reasons. I've tried to preserve an independent impartial contact between the board and the legal counsel. And frankly, I don't know Mr. Renault. I met him just recently, just like everyone else, but he seemed to be the only one that somebody wasn't throwing stones at, so I assumed that he would be an acceptable choice. And then I wanted to emphasize that in this area of Governmental Conduct Act, if there's a question about somebody's position, I wanted authorization to seek an opinion or a clarification from the State Ethics Committee if we thought that was proper to resolve that. So the whole point was to try to take away as many conflicts as I could, and maybe they are not true, but at least there is a perception of conflicts and who's doing what, and who can't do things, and so forth. And it's compounded a little bit by Trustee Radnovich's being agent for Palindrome, but he has stayed out of that, so I think that's going to continue, needs to continue under the Government Contracts Act. So this was just a very quick effort to try to implement what really were the conditions of my accepting this position to come back after 4 years and in my view, try to be a problem solver as opposed to a problem creator like sometimes attorneys are. And after 54 years, I've become much more interested in resolving conflicts than creating conflicts. And so that's the posture in which I'm approaching this whole thing. It doesn't make sense if we get an independent look, a look that everybody can trust, to send this thing down the road for endless litigation, like Mr. Eves implied. If there's a way to reach some common ground with independent counsel to resolve the issues. So that's the purpose of the resolution, and I'd be happy to respond to questions.
Thank you. We need a motion to approve resolution number 2024-01-03.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-01-03.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any individuals that signed up to speak?
Mayor and trustees, we had a Mr. Mel Eves, but I think he has since left. So other than that, he was the only individual who signed up for comment.
Okay. Discussion from the governing body?
Yes. Attorney Chappell. So in the language for this new resolution, you say something about further that we use the words a more impartial representative of the Board of Trustees. It's I don't know if I want to go down this path because right now it seems like we're getting along so well. But you can make arguments either way, and my opinion is that both Frank Renaud and myself are impartial. And you point to the letter that I came to a conclusion as to how it should proceed I made a recommendation of what would be the least cost to the village. My proposal, if it could be amended, would be to include both Frank and myself as representative, because there's no downside to that. And I think we could actually come together to do, also another amendment would be to have monthly reports, at a minimum. But I think the two of us could come together and write a report. And if we did differ in our opinions, we could write separate reports so that you could hear two opinions. And obviously, nothing gets settled until it comes before the board anyway. We can't make a decision for the village on our own anyhow. So that's what I would do. Let me read. I'm not going to read the entire letter that I wrote, but I will point out bullets number 1 and 5. It says, per the resolution, in order to avoid the cost of litigating the 2 lawsuits filed against the mayor and trustee Kiefer. Now, this was written on January 8th, okay. Both the mayor and the trustee should recuse themselves from participation in all matters which they have stated public opposition to village-approved projects. These recusals not only save thousands of village dollars, but avoid potential appeals in the future. So we did have one hearing on January 12th, and my interpretation of what I heard, and I certainly would like for you to weigh in on that, is that there was a hearing before the hearing which had to do with jurisdiction. And basically, we never got to the real hearing because the case law that was cited as examples had something on the agenda for that particular person. And so the Guadalupe Chavez did not have anything on the agenda. And then I also heard a caution by the judge to both Trustee Kiefer and Mayor Craig to think about it, about your vote. Nope, it was a nice statement. It was just, and it wasn't instructing them to do anything, just to think about it. In regards to that litigation that we heard on January 12th, I don't know this, and I have no idea how it's going to end up, but the way it sounded is like Guadalupe and Chavez could come back once the Guadalupe Chavez was on our agenda, and then the case laws decided would be applicable. So you can comment on that, but before you do that, I'll go to point 5, which I picked the example that minimizes the cost to the village. So there are 3 lawsuits outstanding. One is an anti-donation clause, and I think the 2 Open Meetings Act lawsuits have been merged. Then there's the appeal of the appeal of the appeal, right, where I famously abstained, which makes me impartial, apparently. So I picked, so there are 3 doors we can open, right, with those lawsuits, and there are different permutations. But if we all lump them all together, we can hope that the lawsuits get dismissed, not our call. We can continue to litigate, or we can plead guilty. And I, for the purposes of transparency, I am telling the public what I think is the option that results in the least cost to the village. Obviously, we're not talking to independent counsel as of yet, but I would think that the 2 of us, if it's acceptable to the person that made the motion, to keep both of us as representatives for independent counsel would be in the best interest of the village. You'll get you'll hopefully get 1 opinion, but you might get 2, and it might give you some pause to think about some things. Go ahead, please.
Mayor and Trustee Benavides, with respect to the hearing that took place, the court clearly said that she did not have jurisdiction to hear the matter. The reason she doesn't have jurisdiction is because there's a limitation. The courts cannot simply get out and intervene into a legislative and executive kind of argument. There are certain paths that get that in front of the court. There are appeals, there are other things like that, could be declaratory judgments, but just to intervene at this stage was simply not something the court believed she had jurisdiction to do. And I think that's a valid argument. We don't need the court intervening in this situation. As I have responded to your letter, it was to me, also addressed to me, I don't want you to be disqualified from voting in these matters. I see your letter as outlining a prejudgment on certain issues that are about the same as were litigated in the Benavides case, not your Benavides case, that was used as primary basis for the litigation. And it's just that we need to be careful not to prejudge things. And I would not have any problem at all with what you are suggesting, except you have outlined a proposal here which may have disclosed what should be settlement negotiations, which should be behind closed doors. You've already prejudged facilitating parking. You've already prejudged things like this and say that's what we ought to do. And from a perception basis, it doesn't mean you can't be there, but the people who oppose this project will view you as prejudiced. And that's the reason that was the deciding factor for me to say that we should have a different representative, is because that was published in the public and people are going to see that. So I don't have anything to say about the ultimate outcome. This was a draft that I proposed. It's before the trustees, and the trustees can do with it whatever they like and whatever they think is best for the village, and I think that's what they should do. I was just trying to lift this above perceptions of non-objectivity just as best I could, because I thought that was the quickest way to the end. I've had lots of opinions different people disagree with, so it doesn't matter. But I think that's a question for the trustees. That's not a question for me. I'm not arguing with you.
So, I mean, I don't know if this is the proper term, but it looks like a briefing by Attorney Matthew Beck, where, and it's in that it's like a 9-page briefing, maybe 10-page, that you may have seen. And on page 8, I will just read it. Let's see. It does say something about the current mayor lost to Mr. Craig in his bid for re-election, and there exists a lame duck board of trustees with 2 of the remaining 3 trustees out January 1st and 2 incoming trustees aligned with Mr. Craig, having run on the same platform and promised to enforce state law and village ordinances on the Village Center project. Does that not show bias?
That shows the position of Mr. Beck in suing the village. In my experience, and I've been at this a long time, the Stelzner firm has a great deal of credibility. I don't think they would make frivolous statements. I think the Pfeiffer firm has a great deal of credibility, and I don't think they're going to make frivolous accusations or claims. There are 2 sides to the issue, and so what I'm trying to simply say is let's change the deadlock that we have between the village and the way they were defending it, and maybe the Pfeiffer firm and the way they were doing it, and see if there's something that can cut off this deadlock. That's the whole point. So I understand that there's two very different sides of the case. I have purposely collected information so I would try to know how to do something, but have purposely not formed an opinion as to who's right, who's wrong, or who did what that was not or not wrong. I'm trying to act in as just an objective way as I would expect Trustee Renaud to do if he was in that position. And I don't know what his position is, frankly. I've never talked to him. So it's just a perception thing to say, all right, if he comes back with a recommendation, and you will get to have your input in it, I would think. But if the trustees want two representatives, that's okay with me. My first point was that because of this schism that's been created, probably there are certain people that wouldn't want Mayor Craig to be the one calling the shots with the defense counsel. And he may not like that characterization of him either. But I just thought that was not healthy for the situation, so that's the reason we need other. And it may be that you come up with a different plan. It may be that you come up with a litigation commission or committee that's outside of the Board of Trustees. Sometimes that happens. This was just my proposal.
So I'm not making any predictions in regards to the lawsuits for the restraining orders, and I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know if Guadalupe Chavez will file again once it's on the agenda. But in the event that one of those goes against the mayor and Trustee Kiefer, what does that say about the vote on the resolution today?
I don't think it says anything because there is no order in effect and we have no indication that an order will be entered. There are two cases. In the Palindrome case, the judge denied the temporary restraining order. In the Chavez-Guadalupe case, she denied the case altogether. And so, but there may be some appeals. I can't predict that. But
so maybe you have some later information. I thought the Palindrome restraining order was still to be held on January 25th. Is that not the case?
The judge denied the request for a temporary restraining order, which is basically what would have happened on the 12th in the Chavez-Guadalupe case, but set it for hearing for more evidence on the 25th. And in that case, I assume that counsel for the village will raise the same jurisdictional issues, but we don't. We haven't filed, he hasn't filed a response to that. And just so you'll know, legally, when representatives of the village are sued in their official capacity, it is legally a suit against the village.
Of course. Yeah.
My position is we need to keep everybody that we've got voting and having input, and if they need to be out because of conflicts, they get out. But whether it's you or whoever comes up, we need to keep this body functioning in a proper way.
My main interest is just to save the village as much money as possible.
Trustee Radnovich, do you have any comments?
I do. I was actually, I've been considering this for a while because I just assumed that this would be happening. As most of you probably remember or know, I voted no for Trustee Benavidez to be put in that position. It wasn't for the same reasons that you're bringing up tonight, but I voted no on that. I'm of the belief that this should be some kind of commission and not one person. And so while I agree with what Attorney Chappell is saying, I still believe that it should be a commission. And I'm not opposed to having Trustee Benavidez on that commission with Trustee Renaud. However, I think it should be a full commission, not one person. So I'm of that opinion about this resolution tonight.
Thank you. Trustee Kiefer?
I don't know how much I can say. You know, I can say I'm not conflicted. You know, what you read, Trustee Benavides, was that, you know, I ran on a platform of following law and order and following ordinances, and doing my due diligence to protect the village as well. And so, you know, I am of the, I don't know Mr. Chappell, but he sounds very competent. He's got over 50 years. I'm not going to pretend I'm an attorney. And so I am of the mindset to take his recommendation as he has written it, and put my trust and faith in the system and in the process, and in the separations of government, and let everything play out the way that it should play out with council's advice. And so I support this resolution.
Thank you. Trustee Renaud?
Here we go. So it's another conundrum. You know, I think that the resolution as presented, I think fairly represents a path forward to the village, you know, for the village. You know, and when you suggest, Mr. Chappell, about a commission that could be even external to the Board of Trustees, you know, there could be an opportunity to kind of expand the those who are working with the council, whoever that individual is going to be. The I guess what I'm concerned about also is how it looks. You know, and the law may tell us one thing, but the way that it looks to those who are observing the Board of Trustees may have a different take on it. Okay. You know, so you know, I agreed to do this with a, you know, in thinking about it, with a purpose of trying to bring kind of an independent, impartial judgment. I have not been involved in any of the legal, these lawsuits in terms of any kind of a leadership role in them. I've read about them, I've talked to people about them, but I don't have any other information beyond what has been reported in the media and elsewhere. Okay. I feel comfortable in being able to do it, but I can also see some of the comments that were being made by both Trustees Radnovich and Benavides as being important to consider as well. You know, so, you know, and in terms of the way that I would approach this, again, is to learn as I went along, because I need to understand then what the implications are for each of the lawsuits that are before us. I personally don't think we can take a broad brush to just kind of put them all aside. I think we need to deal with them individually in order to really understand what the implication is for the village. You know, and so I would want to be very, very critical of what these lawsuits are about and being able to make, I think, a impartial judgment about how the village should operate per each lawsuit that's on the table. Because we may decide on a different path for each one. And I agree that we want to try and, certainly with what Trustee Benavides is talking about, I want to try and reduce the cost to the village. I also want to reduce the exposure to the village as well. Okay, that's also important. So again, I mean, I'm certainly interested to hear what others may say about it in addition to what's already been said. You certainly have a comment. I'd be interested to hear that as well.
Mayor and Trustee, now, I don't really have a response, but one of the things that I have also been concerned about is depending how the village goes down this road, depending on what's done by some court decree or whatever, I'm not saying it does, but it could expose the village to damages and things like that because of some damage claims. As the village attorney, whatever happens, my view is going to be toward minimizing the risk of the damage claim against the village. That's part of my job. And so I'm trying to create a platform, and I don't have all the ideas. I've been in tons of corporate fights and partnership fights and everything else where we have issues. And I have just learned that some objectivity many times separated from the perception of those that are in the midst of the battle is very helpful at times. I have no concerns about amendments that you might want to make to this or who you want to designate. I'm not trying to dictate that at all. I'm trying to set up a platform and a mechanism that I think would take us a little bit further from the battle to some more objective approach. That's my only point.
Go ahead.
I appreciate you saying that, Attorney Chappell. I agree with that kind of thinking. I'm going to suggest. I personally am not really ready to vote on this, and I think I'd like us to think more about the potential of some kind of commission. I was thinking the exact same thing that you said, Attorney Chappell, that it could be something like that. And so I'm not suggesting that a commission be paid, but so it wouldn't have anything to do with that. But I think I'd like to offer a suggestion that we defer this. And it sounds like you, Attorney Chappell, I mean, this, as the mayor said, he's only been here for less than 3 weeks so far. And so I think there's more to consider in this particular resolution than just what we have in front of us here.
Mayor and Trustee Radnovich, I use the word commission. It's really a litigation committee that we do that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what is important in one context to me in this resolution. I think the action of the Board of Trustees to try to prohibit the mayor as the head of the executive branch and tell him what he can do and cannot do has got to go. That's not even good to be in the record for defending the village on some of these 2 new lawsuits. I don't know that it hurts us, but it's simply not there and it's not proper. And if the trustees want to come up with a plan or would like for me to sit down and come up with a plan, then I think I'd be happy to do that and find out what it was. It's just that what we have to work with today in terms of people who are in positions and positions of authority that could do things, I could only find one unbiased person in the group in terms of that people would look at as unbiased, and that was Mr. Renaud. If he comes back and says, look, I'd like a committee to support me in this, I would have no problem with that. I mean, I don't dictate the policy of the village. I try to facilitate the village getting where I think they want to go, and that was my plan to do that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Did you need?
Attorney Chappell, I guess I have a question. If it's moved forward at some point with a commission, or committee, let me change the verbiage to a committee, and trustees are part of that committee, could that potentially change their voting, their ability to vote on certain items? Because now they're privileged to information that they may not have otherwise been privy to?
Well, clearly, Mr. Mayor and Trustee Kiefer, whoever is involved should not disclose confidential information or privileged information. But privileged information is not only just facts and communications, it is litigation strategy, that sort of thing. And so whomever is involved, and that was my criticism of the letter from Trustee Benavides. So whoever's involved should understand their real obligation, and those kind of things can be discussed in a closed session with the Board of Trustees, but shouldn't be out to the public and available to the attorneys that are suing the village. You know, you can't put that prejudice out there in that context. So it's a position you would need to consider carefully. But if a litigation committee, longer term would be what is there, and it seems like Trustee Renaud kind of thinks that's a good idea, I would, maybe perhaps he's the one that should suggest what that looks like, and the trustees approve that, to help him in what that position is. I'm just trying to clear the perceptions and the optics of what's going on a fairly immediate basis. That's all my suggestion was. I did not initiate this resolution, okay? I was asked to participate in the resolution.
This is a very complicated case, attorney. I mean, this whole thing is very complicated that's happening in the village.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of optics from many different perspectives that are driving what we're talking about here tonight.
Yeah. Mayor and Trustee Radnovich, I considered that very carefully and almost decided, no, I would not get back involved because it was just too far down the road and these kind of things. I made a decision that I would like to come back because I like to represent the village. I like the people. As far as I know, I like everybody on this Board of Trustees, but would limit it in such a way that I thought I could be constructive.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are.
Thank you.
I guess I have one more comment, and if I'm speaking out of turn, Attorney Chappell, please stop me. But as a defendant in these cases, I think that it's rather important that someone, and I trust Trustee right now, that to Mr. Chappell's point, that hasn't had rocks slung at them, be that representative and start moving the direction forward of what we need. And if that does mean a committee, then that's what that means, is a committee. I'm all for, more people, but I do think that it needs to, we need to start somewhere. And I think this resolution, in my opinion, starts that open transparency with an individual that has not had any mud slung on them at this time. And I don't think will.
The Mayor and Trustee Kiefer, I would say that one of the things in Trustee Benavides's letter, which I think is the next logical step in this litigation, is mediation. Okay, but I don't believe that the trustees will be in a position to go forward and do something in the mediation until they have an independent view of what has occurred up to this point. So I do agree that that's the next step. Solving litigation, if you do it in mediation is definitely the way to go. Nobody, including me, benefits by this continuation. So.
Recording in progress.
Thank you.
It's a good thing.
Thank you. Attorney Chappell, the floor is now closed for comments. We have an approval for resolution number 2024-0103. Would like to ask for the vote. Trustee Benavides?
As is, I vote no.
Trustee Radnovich?
Yeah, I'd like to, I think we need to have more, and this is nothing against Frank at all, but I'd vote no at this point too.
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Renaud?
Yes.
And as mayor, to break the tie, I vote yes. The motion carries. We'll move on to section 12, trustee informal discussion.
Who goes first, me?
Go ahead, yes.
So let's see. We had a lot of public comments in regards to a moratorium on VC zone. I hear you, and I want to say that where were all these people when I first called for a moratorium on VC back in 2022? I certainly I can show my email didn't exist with the people wanting to asking me to do a moratorium. I got plenty of people now. So, but the main point is I was for a moratorium then. I'm for a moratorium now. We just have to be very careful on how we craft it so that it doesn't look like it spills over into anything having to do with the two current projects happening in the VC zone. So as long as we're careful, I think it'll be fine. So we had a public comment about from Teresa Real, I think her last name is, about an event planner. I think that's an excellent idea. We have events in the village are extremely popular. There's a lot of money that's to be made through ticket sales or retail sales, and we leave a lot of money on the table. There's plenty of money to pay for an event planner, and I think we ought to do that. I think we can see a return on our investment if we do that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Radnovich.
I'd like to hear from the new trustees first. Or at least one of them, one of you. It's your first meeting.
Oh, goodness, it's too late. Well, I guess first, thank you all for being here and the public input. That's what I look forward to, and that's what I wanted was people to come up to the podium to be able to listen. I wrote everybody's name down. I wrote everything that everybody said. VC moratorium, I concur with Trustee Benavides, is a big topic. And I completely support that. I think the next step would be getting it on an agenda, Mr. Mayor, so that we can get it passed. But it's been a transition, to say the least. Sworn in on the 3rd and went to training that following week in Santa Fe for newly appointed officials. And that was really interesting. Again, learned a lot of resources at the New Mexico Municipal League. who I've already reached out to and got responses same day on various topics, so that's exciting. But I'm excited to do this. I'm excited to work for you, the constituents, work for the public, and all I ask is continue your support in letting us know. I know one of the topics I brought up, or I asked Maria, is communication. So please, if anyone out there on video or in person have any ideas of how we can improve that, submit. I have an official Los Ranchos email, and I have an official Los Ranchos cell phone. I don't know the number yet.
Wait a minute, an official Los Ranchos cell phone?
I do.
How'd you get that? I haven't had one for 2 years.
Yours is back here.
Mine's back there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Mayor,
oh,
the mayor and
no.
trustees,
Now I've got two
you'll be
cell
receiving
phones.
one
No.
tonight, yes.
Talk about being, I think we also have a partiality problem.
I am really sorry to hear that.
So I'll be sharing that email, or look on the website. It will be there, but thank you all for the confidence and the trust you've placed in me.
I can only add a couple of words to it because I think that she took it away. But yeah, and it's an honor doing this. It's a lot of work, I know, and I hope to be able to get out and meet many of you. And I'm extremely open to hearing from you, from your comments, and a number of you have already done that, which I certainly appreciate. In terms of the VC zone, I totally agree, and it really needs to be the quicker the better. We need to get it on the agenda, and I know that at this point, you know, and Maida has indicated that we're not having pressures yet, but I'm still very concerned about once the excuse me. Once the developments that are currently going in start to really build up, we're going to get a lot more push from developers and others who may be interested in developing that VC zone. The other part of, I guess, my concern is the development that can potentially occur along Rio Grande. I live at the end of Rio Grande on Ortega Road, and as I drive down Rio Grande, I'm seeing for sale signs everywhere. There are currently, I believe, 5 signs out, and I would think that, and I would just hate to see large developments go in without some substantial planning. And that's something that I ran on in my campaign, planned growth. We need to really not only take a look at the VC zone, but other areas of the village, because they may also be subject to large kinds of development. I'm not anti-development, but I think we need to do it in a way that's conscientious, that's rigorous, that supports what we all want for the village, to be able to maintain the traditions, be able to maintain the kind of open space that we have. Because again, we're surrounded by county and city, and I'm sure that they are just biting at the bit in order to get a hold of Los Ranchos. This is what we were founded on in 1958, to be able to withstand this kind of development. I think we're at a point right now where we really need to be very careful and very proactive in how we want to develop. So I'll continue to work that, continue to reach out for your comment, and hope that we can work together in order to make sure that the village is able to maintain the kinds of environment and character that we all so love and the reason why we're here. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Trustee. Thank you, Trustee. Trustee Radovich?
I've got a few things, Mayor. One is the VC moratorium, I totally agree. And I think we need to move on. I think the CAC needs to move on after they're done with the open space conservation development proposals. And there will be a meeting next month. I think we've heard that already. So I think we do need to pass that moratorium. The other thing I wanted to mention is the developers aren't coming. I think the developers are afraid of Los Ranchos. So they are not coming, Frank. I would almost bet my house on that.
I hope you're right.
No, I know I'm pretty sure. Earlier tonight, I said something that I want to apologize for. I said, this is exactly what the previous administration was doing. I didn't mean that the way it came out. The way I meant it was that things would be put in front of us with our vote necessary right then, that night, with no conversation about it ahead of time. And so that's what I meant by that comment. And so I want to apologize for that. I will say that I have heard many things through the proverbial grapevine in the last month or so. And I really think that communications needs to be improved. I know, Mayor Craig, I'm happy you're here. I have no sour grapes about that. I would say that instead of hearing it through the grapevine, I'd like to see more of it in a communication of some sort, because I think that was part of what you ran on, and so I'd like that to happen. I have a comment about a couple other things. One is that on-call. I'm really happy to hear that we're going to be putting that out again. I think it's a travesty that we've given Bohannon Houston over $1 million worth of fees without them having to go to anything other than an on-call. The way on-calls usually work is they're for smaller projects, and they usually have lower limits on the fees that can be charged, and bigger projects go to an RFP. And that didn't happen with the last administration. And I think that is, like I said, a travesty. They got a lot of work and I'm not just picking on them. I think we need to have on-calls go out more than every 5 years. Bohannon and Houston aren't the only ones that have benefited from that. So I was really happy to hear that. I would like to put a limit on the amount of fee that a consultant can use under an on-call. And I'd like to suggest that we also, and I'm glad it's coming, that we also have multiple firms, so we're not taking the fee of one firm without any competitive bids. So I wanted to say that as well. I think, what else did I have? I think there was one other thing. This informal discussion, Trustee Kiefer put it well. You know, I'm kind of tired. It's the end of the night. I wondered if we, and by the way, one other thing I wanted to say before I say that. The vision is much better. The vision is great. We need to have an op-ed section in the vision, but I think the vision is really heading in the right direction. So thank you for that, and thank you for everyone who works on that. It was different this month than it typically is. The other thing I was going to suggest is that maybe we can have informal discussion at the beginning of a meeting, or perhaps at some other point, so that it's not the last thing. Everybody wants to get out of here, and it becomes a little more fresh that way, and that it actually becomes a discussion instead of you going, and then I go, and then you go, and then you go. I mean, I think I'd like to see it, and we'd have a lot more energy to do that if it were earlier in the agenda. So I just wanted to throw that out too.
Thank you.
Mayor?
So I'm sorry.
Sorry. What?
I was going to say,
Leave
we're
it to
going to do
me.
it tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
No.
No.
I just wanted to piggyback on Trustee Radnovich because he wanted some dialogue. But I'm just kidding. The one thing that I forgot to add that I think is extremely important is I want to say thank you, Trustee Radnovich, Benavides. I look forward to working with you. I know I thanked all the constituents, but I didn't thank you. And thank you, Mayor. I look forward to working with you as well. So I think this is going to be a good board.
Me too.
Okay, now, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting for January